Well, all of this obviously is going to take money. So
Yep.
can we talk a little bit about how you guys are financing this?
Sure. We're right now we're a private company, and we're right now in the stage of looking at. We're just working out. So we're doing up all our financial um, estimates right now for the next 3 years. We're looking at doing some uh, potential government, depending upon how we want to shape it. We're trying to look at private equity. We're looking at a number of things. But Bill, it doesn't take nearly as much as I thought it would,
Okay.
as we're putting everything through the shredder and going through it and going through all the numbers. We're looking at I mean, when I did Indian Motorcycle, we raised a lot of money there, and we're not even remotely close to what we did there. Not like, actually, our first round of financing would cover what we've got here, because what we're doing, so for the vehicles, we do a lot of floor planning on the vehicle side. So we don't need to capitalize the vehicles. And then we're working with different groups to have them as licensees in different territories. So there's just licensing fees.
All right.
So we've got some cash flow already. We've got cash flow happening. From the models that we've already done, we know what we're going to be looking for, and we don't need to bankroll millions of dollars, millions and tens and twenties of millions of dollars, as you would if you tried to open up one dealership for an OEM.
Yeah. Yeah.
Again, a new business model, a new way of thinking. I mean, I know guys, and I mean, I'm talking out of school here, and I shouldn't because I don't like to, but I heard recently through a friend of a friend, it was third party of a fellow who just sold his BMW dealership because BMW came to him and said, you need to do like, I think it was $5.3 million worth of leasehold improvements to, redo the whole dealership, build it all up. And he said, it's going to take me 15 years to get that money back. And he sold it.
Yeah.
Like, that to me is, listen, I believe in sustainability, and I believe in renewables, and I believe in all those things. And I don't believe, and I believe in that whole, that whole circular flow of everything, from
Right.
instead of being linear, let's look at that circle
Right.
and the
Yep.
circle. And you can't work the circle by investing that kind of money into something that's really linear.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so we're really looking at it. So we're not crazy, but we are looking for partners. There's no question about. But we're looking for the right partners,
Yeah.
because we don't need, to sell our souls. We need to build this out properly, and
Yeah.
and there's a lot out there. We're just we're going through them right now.
Yeah, well, let's talk a little bit about you've mentioned this. You were at Azure Dynamic, and of course, that one of their claims to fame was introduction of the Transit Connect electric version of that Ford van. Ultimately, that went away. I didn't realize that you were a key person in the reintroduction of the Indian motorcycle, which is kind of an interesting thing. You're doing what? I think there's a company, you're doing sustainable mobility and living, what, steep building systems or something like that. So you got your hands in a not only do you have an interesting background, but you got your hands in a lot of different things right now.
But they all, they all dovetail together.
Yeah.
So it's like, and I explain this to people as, when you're an entrepreneur, you're working on a number of things. You're working on, there's many different cups of coffee that you've got going. In my case, I've been able to take them all and kind of pour them all into the same jug.
Yeah.
And that is the jug of sustainability. So steep, for example, is structural thermal energy efficient panels. When and if we build a freestanding location for even electric, we're going to use the steep panels.
Okay.
Right? Because they're green. So I can tell you, steep panels made from blown polystyrene into a frame, and the frame is metal, anywhere from 16 to 24 gauge metal made from recycled automobiles.
Okay.
So it's right. So, and if we can build quicker, we can do a whole bunch of things that are really efficient, and it will allow us to do that. Take Renew also, the company that I mentioned earlier, Renew Merchandise. They take plastic bottles, as we know them, water bottles, Coca-Cola, Pepsi-Cola, whomever, and they take those and break them down and turn them into fibers and then spin the fibers and they make yarn out of them and they make apparel. They make post-consumer waste. They can also fabricate plastic inject. So these are all the companies I've been working with, but I'm taking all of their stuff and I'm integrating it into our locations. So as we build out, it all works together. It all dovetails together. Then if you look at, for example, I'll give you a good steep example. My partner in steep, Peter Smith. Peter's out building things right now, but what we're putting into all of the homes are EV charging stations.
Okay, sure.
Right? Why not? That's so I have, a really good, and we have a strategic relationship with EVO Charge out of California. So we will be, whenever we build a home, we're going to make sure that home comes equipped with an EV charger built into the home.
Yeah.
And so on. Anything that we're doing. So we have solar canopies. There's a whole bunch of things and they all work together. But it's really, yeah. So my background, is when people say, when you tell them you're working on this, how can you have that many hours in the day? And that's a good question because there is only 24 on everybody's clock. But you know what? I've lived this way for a long period of time, and I don't know. Mine is 24/7, and I remember, this is a good one, because Azure Dynamics, and I tell people this, Azure was great, but it was the first quote-unquote job I had, and I called it Azure U. I called it a whole bunch of things. So I went from Indian Motorcycle, where we brought back in 1999, we brought back the Indian Chief. We did a lot of things. We did a lot of things right, but we also made a lot of missteps, but you learn from those. And that's what this culmination has allowed all of this. But when I went from Indian and I went into this sustainable world, this sustainable transportation world, I remember the first weekend and I was at home and I said to my wife, my BlackBerry's not buzzing. Like, what's going on? It's Saturday. What, don't these guys work? Like after 23 years of being an entrepreneur, it was this whole new world. But it was great because I went in and I worked with over 100 engineers and I became very well versed in, the actual mechanical operations of a vehicle and the chemistry that goes into the batteries. And I sat in all of these meetings with really, really brilliant people, way smarter than me. But that's how you get smarter, is not by hanging with people who are not. I like to hang with those that are brilliant because if I can take a piece away with me,
exactly.
Something.
Oh well, look. So let's talk a little bit about Sun Country.
Sure.
And then also Cuba. I'm curious how a Canadian company ended up doing business in Cuba.
Okay, so at Sun Country, there's a fellow here by the name of Kent Rathwell. I think you may know Kent or heard of Kent. Kent went out of his own pocket and put his money where his mouth was, and he built a highway across the country and put EV chargers all the way across Canada from coast to coast.
Oh, okay.
Arguably the longest green highway on the planet. And, in Canada it's called Highway 1 because we have one that goes from coast to coast. And he electrified it.
Yeah.
So he did that as really a way for him to make a contribution to keep the electric vehicle movement alive and well. And he did that in about 2010 while I was doing Electric Mobility Canada and Azure and other things. Subsequently, he and I hooked up, and he actually is part of and made some introductions to myself and John Gordon, and he actually knew Gisli also because Kent was out there doing it. So he's been part of all this whole thing in the background, but very much alive and well in doing it. So he brought me in about a year or so ago, maybe a little bit more than a year ago, and we started talking about Sun Country Highway and all of his other companies that he has, and we formed a company called Sun Country Integrated, which is really a shared services company to help and assist with all of the cross many company marketing and things like that.
Right.
However, so what happened in Cuba? It's brilliant. This was like the cart was definitely ahead of the horse on this one. I can't remember exactly what month it was, but Kent delivered the first EV charging stations to Cuba, but there were no EVs.
Right. Yeah.
So, but they have them now. They've got the first Nissan Leaf went there. So Sun Country brought the first charger and the first electric vehicle into Cuba. And
Yeah, I interviewed the gentleman that was arranged through down in Cayman. So
right, that's what's his name? John
yeah,
Felder?
John Felder. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So John Felder and Kent, they've been talking for years and trying to do business together on different levels. So yeah, so Cayman Automotive, I think they're called.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So so Sun Country, Sun Country's been a player here in Canada, and arguably in the U.S. also, with a number of different very big accounts. And Sun Country still is on the stage of and focused on EV charging and putting charging infrastructure in place. So I'm still helping there. I'm still working on it. We've got a bunch of projects going on here in Ontario, in the province of Ontario, and there's projects in British Columbia and projects all over North America, all on the infrastructure side.
Okay. Well, let's. When do you expect to open up your first even showroom there in Canada, and then subsequently here in the U.S.? Do you think?
Well, I would say, I can give you here. I know. Here's what I do. We're converting over John's location very quickly out in Newfoundland, so he'll be the first even location in Canada. Second, behind that, we've got a group out of British Columbia, we've got a group in Ontario or Toronto, and we've got a group in Montreal who are all interested. So those three are on the horizon. However, I'm still trying to work out this national opportunity, and I don't want to. So I'm juggling there.
Yeah.
I've got interest in Los Angeles from a group in LA, and I actually have a call with them later today. But John's will be the first. The second and third that we'll be doing is Panama, in Panama City, okay, and in Prague, Czechoslovakia.
Oh, okay.
So Czech Republic.
Right.
So, in the Czech Republic. So Prague is the next. They want to open up in October. We're trying to get Panama up and running. So I would say 2017, we're going to be busy opening locations.
Okay, cool.
Very busy opening locations. And we as much as we've put a roadmap down, we look at the roadmap and we've got our business roadmap on how we want to roll it out. But really what's happening is the guy in the Czech Republic basically said, I want to be open in October. So he moved up in the roadmap.
Yeah.
We've had calls from Abu Dhabi, from the deal I'm trying to put together right now in Australia, New Zealand, Israel, the US, of course, Canada, and some other countries that a lot in Europe, Belgium, Norway, Holland, got to think, but there's a lot of activity going on. The UK, can't forget the UK, that's another one.
What kind of training? I mean, obviously you're going to have staff to do this. What kind of credentials are you looking for from these people? Because obviously people that are going to be listening to this or watching this, excuse me, may be interested in actually, applying if they're in some of these locations. What are you looking for credentials or resume-wise for people on this?
First thing I would say is passion, obviously, towards, making a difference. Secondly, a willingness to learn about a new entity in the marketplace. And then thirdly comes the technical side. So I would look at, passion, ability to want to sponge and learn, and then to see what those technical, the engineering, the person that's worked on the vehicles, the person who's worked in, disruptive technology space. But they're tertiary to me, and they would surface later, but it's really the person, Bill, that we're looking for. We're looking for licensees, the right licensee. We will definitely train. We're going to have when we do have a full training package from the vehicles to, you will not be, everything's out on the internet, obviously, but everything's out there for you to learn. But we've put together a nice, even package that helps walk you through every vehicle that's out there, understanding what a 30 amp charger is versus a, a 14 kilowatt hour battery, and so on and so on. So we've got, Voss terms, we've got everything laid out. So we will go through initial training. We will open locations up with the right people, training the right people, and then passing that baton on. We will constantly update our training programs as it comes on, and we'll be doing online training on a regular basis. We will be using exactly the vehicle you and I are on right now.
Right.
And we will be doing, training programs.
Okay.
So fortunately, the internet, again, 1989, I was in that space, and I can't tell you how happy I am as to how it's evolved, because it's allowed us, you and I, to talk today, and it will allow us and even to speak with, those in Australia and wherever, without having to get on a plane and burn fossil fuel.
Yeah, exactly.
Although
I got to say, though, I mean, I do miss the face-to-face part. We can sit across the table and share a Molson together.
Well, I do too. There's no question about it. But you know what I also enjoy? I also enjoy being sort of grounded and near my family and the things I love.
Yeah.
And there's been many nights where I've spent, when I was doing, whether it was Indian or what I was doing, where I was in hotels for days and weeks on end. And you just kind of, you get to that point and you're like, where am I?
Yeah.
And
why am I doing this? Yeah.
Right. I have 3 kids that were growing up that I was missing part of their life. So if we, and listen, it's that rite of passage, right? Like, I remember in business, when I was in business school, you wanted to get out and be in business so you could be the business traveler guy. But as you do it, you kind of go, okay,
the fun passes pretty quickly,
really quickly. And it becomes, as you know, so rite of passage. My oldest daughter right now has just finished her master's in bioresource engineering, and she's out, and she's in Timmins today, and she was in Quebec, and she actually sent me a little note yesterday. She said, Dad, I feel like you from 20 years ago. I'm traveling to all these places. And I said, enjoy it. But you know what? Like, it does get old. And when you find, being close to the things you love is really a nice perk that is, and don't get me wrong. I mean, my favorite city in your country is Washington, D.C. And I would have never known that had Azure Dynamics not come along.
Yeah.
I absolutely love DC, and I would go there in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
But now that I've got a great netcast out there, I can do exactly what you and I are doing.
Right now, yeah.
Exactly.
Look, well, thank you, and look, let me know when you can start talking a little bit about some of these other deals, and
for sure,
we'll pick up the thread after that. So much appreciated.
Thanks, Bill.
Oh,
nice
hey,
talking. I'll talk to you soon.
If you've got I need a sort of a high quality photograph that can illustrate what we've been talking about. So if you've got, maybe Gisli took some, good photos of the Iceland facility or whatever, if you could sort of give me a heads up where I can find those, that would be great.
I will connect you right now with Sarah Holiday, and she's our girl out in Newfoundland. She'll send you a little media kit piece that you'll have, so you'll have it all.
All right, sounds great.
All right, Bill, thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Talk soon. Bye.